I think you're the second person who's sort of talked about like the grief thing. I get, but the guilt, the regret, the why can't there be a different outcome? Why weren't they a different person when I did this? Like the if then statements are exhausting. And they just intersect with so much experience and so many wounds and so many attempts and the weight of that. I think sometimes we don't realize the weight of how much we've done to try to heal a relationship until the person dies and there's no more option to do that. And it's like, oh. I think when the person is alive, even if you're estranged, and I'm not saying that was your experience, but like even when if the person is estranged, there's still like, it could happen, right? And so in a way, all of that labor, all of that longing, all of that wanting is still in motion, even if there's the tiniest snowball's chance in hell that something had happened, it's still in motion. And then they die and that machinery grinds to a halt and you're still holding it. Whew, right? So it's tricky because the option to have resolution in a way, the option to heal it, to change it, to have a different outcome, to have a last minute, we did it, right? It got close, but we did it. That option is gone. I think one of the ways to live with that, to work with that, to deal with that is to step outside of the feeling, right? Really clear example when we're talking about loneliness. You didn't mention loneliness, but I'm going to use that as a separate example and come back to it, right? So if you are feeling lonely and you're telling yourself like, why do I feel lonely? I shouldn't feel lonely. I have people in my life. I knew this was coming. Like you start doing all of this stuff, having opinions about your loneliness, having opinions about guilt, having opinions about regret, right? That's not helpful. But to be able to step outside of it and go, oh, loneliness, I recognize you. Oh, regret, I recognize you. What do I need when this regret feels so sharp? What do I need when I feel so thwarted? What would feel soothing or supportive when I feel this way? That is a very different question than how do I make myself stop feeling this? Even when you're asking yourself, how do I make myself stop feeling this kindly? It's still a desire to make it stop. Yeah. And it's just too complicated. It's just too complex and there is no solution. What do we do with unfixable things? We tend to them and we support ourselves inside them. We don't look for a solution, right? It's not quite as pure as grief, sadness. I loved them and I miss them. It's not quite as simple as that, but it might be just as unfixable. Yeah. I think one of the things that we do when, like if I was your friend and you're telling me how much guilt you feel for not doing better, for not trying harder to save him, my impulse is going to be to talk you out of your guilt. You did everything you could. You were a good daughter. You did this and you did, like, it's not your job to heal him for him. Like he has all of this stuff to tell you to stop feeling guilty. And all that does is make you feel like I don't get you. I don't get why you feel guilty, why you actually did fail. Like this is what happens, right? So I don't want you to do that to yourself. I don't want you to reason with your guilt. I don't want you to tell yourself the story that I did the best I could. Not never tell yourself the story because there's a time and a place for that. But I think when you're in the heat of it, when you're really in that bucket, it's not about talking yourself out of it. It's, I feel this and it makes sense that I feel this. What do I need when I feel guilty like this? Now, I don't know the answer to that. I think that's a really good reflection question, right?